When you think of China's three kingdoms, you probably think of epic battles and legendary heroes. But there's one guy who's famous for, well, for dying of jealousy. That's Zhou. But what if I told you that the story that's defined him for centuries might be a total lie? Today, we're going to separate the man from the myth, and trust me, the truth is way more interesting than the fiction.
Yeah, these are supposedly his last words, straight out of the famous novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I mean, wow. That one sentence basically sealed his reputation for centuries, right? The brilliant guy who just couldn't handle his rival's genius and literally died from it. It's an incredible image. But here's the thing. It's also incredible fiction.
So the big question is that how it really went down? Was this dramatic, tragic exit the real deal, or just some amazing storytelling? That's what we're digging into. To get to the bottom of it, we've got to peel back the layers of the novel and see what the actual history says.
All right, so let's get into it. Who was the real Zhou? It's time to put the novel aside for a second and check out the history books.
Okay, so the historical records, they tell a completely different story. For starters, Zhou was the Grand Marshal of Wu. And get this, he was appointed to that top job at just 26 years old. He wasn't just some general, he was a close friend of his lord, Sun Si, so close they were basically brothers, and they even married a pair of famous sisters. Plus, he was apparently so good-looking that people called him Mi Zhou Long, or Beautiful Zhou. And as if that's not enough, the guy was a musical prodigy.
And this is where it gets really interesting. There was a saying back then that went something like, if the melody is wrong, Zhou will look. The story goes that even if he was drunk, his ear was so sharp he could pick out a single wrong note in a performance. Now think about that. This paints a picture of a man with incredible culture and sophistication, a far cry from the jealous, angry guy we read about in the novel, right?
So you have to wonder, how did this super accomplished, handsome, musical genius of a general get turned into a tragic character totally defined by jealousy? Let's put the novel and the history side by side and see what happened.
To figure this out, we need to go straight to the source of the myth, the novel itself, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Now don't get me wrong, it's an absolute masterpiece of Chinese literature, but it's super important to remember what it is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't.
This book was written more than 1,000 years after the actual events took place. Its goal wasn't to be a history textbook. Its goal was drama. To make the story really pop, the author, Lu Guanzhong, kind of simplified everyone into these big, bold characters. So Liu Bei became the ultimate good guy. Cao Cao became the ultimate villain. And to make Zhuge Liang seem like the most brilliant strategist who ever lived, well, somebody had to be his jealous rival. And that somebody was Zhou.
And this table just lays it all out plain and simple. In the novel, Zhou dies of pure rage, screaming about how unfair it is that Zhuge Liang exists. The historical reality? He died at 36 from a pandemic disease, probably something like schistosomiasis, while he was getting ready for another military campaign. Total tragedy. And their relationship? In real life, they were allies. They worked together and won the huge Battle of Red Cliffs. There's zero historical record of any personal beef between them. So the most famous rivalry in the story was completely made up for the book.
So now we've got these two versions of the same guy, and that's created this really cool legacy. Today, when creators want to tell a story about him, they have to choose. Are we going with the historical hero or the literary rival? Let's take a look at how he shows up in pop culture these days.
And that's pretty much what you find. Depending on what movie, TV show, or video game you're into, you can get a totally different version of Zhang Yu. And which version a director or a game developer picks, well, it usually tells you a lot about the kind of story they're trying to tell.
For a whole lot of people, this is the Zhu. The classic 1994 TV series, which was a huge deal, stuck really close to the novel. And yeah, its Zhu is smart, a brilliant strategist for sure, but he's also completely eaten up by his obsession with Zhuge Liang. This show really locked in that tragic rival image for millions of viewers.
But then, fast forward to 2008, director John Woo makes this epic blockbuster movie, Red Cliff, and he flips the script entirely. Tony Leung plays Zhou here, and he's cool, confident, totally heroic. In this version, he's the main hero of the battle, and he and Zhuge Liang actually work together, respecting each other's skills. It's a huge shift, leaning way more into the historical facts.
And then you've got the world of video games. If you've ever played Dynasty Warriors, you know this guy. The games give him another spin altogether. They really focus on his style and his heroic side. He's almost always this super elegant, powerful, and handsome warrior.
They really lean into that beautiful Zhou nickname, and it's made him a massive fan favorite all over the world.
So, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, Zhou Yu's whole legacy is just a fascinating case study in how a really, really good story can sometimes feel more real to us than what actually happened.
So, in the end, we're left with two Zhou Yus, right? You've got the historical man, this brilliant prodigy who was a top general, a loyal friend, and a master musician whose life was tragically cut short by illness. And then you have the literary myth, this incredibly compelling, tragic figure whose whole identity is wrapped up in his jealousy of one other guy.
And I think, ultimately, the story of Zhou Yu is such a great reminder that history isn't just a list of facts about what happened, it's also about the stories we tell about what happened. And every now and then, a story is so good, so powerful, that it completely takes over, creating a legend that lasts way longer than the actual reality ever could.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The Zhou Yu that you have in your head right now, is he the legend or is he the real person? And maybe more importantly, what does it say about us and about the power of a great story that we so often prefer one over the other?